Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming here today for our Sunday public meeting. This is the live we do every Sunday at 11:15. My name is Juliana. I'm volunteer of the Spiritist group. I've been with the group since 2011. Yeah, since 2011, when I moved to Dublin. Before our venue have been closed because of the coronavirus, the pandemic, I was working with the kids on the kids gospel, and now sometimes I would help as well on Sunday public meetings. So without further ado, today I'm going to be talking about free will, a self-development path. It's going to be about half an hour to 40 minutes. I'm just going to talk about free will according to the Spiritism, how Spiritism view the free will. So if you'd like to sit comfortable, I'm going to do initial prayer, and then I'm going to initiate the talk. So if you want to close your eyes, take a deep breath. Connect to the spiritual world, to your guardians. Elevate your thoughts. I'd like to thank everyone for being here. I'd like to thank for the spiritual group, our spiritual guardian, the guiders of our spiritual group to guide this speech today, this talk. May all that was going to be said touch our hearts and enlighten our soul. So be it. Thank you again. So, gonna start talking about free will. So, I think the first thing to say is actually the definition. So according to the Collins dictionary, so they have two definitions. One, ability to make choices that are not externally determined. Ability to make a decision without outside curation. So this is when you think for yourself and you make decisions yourself. That's free will. Like whenever you decide to take medicine because doctor told you need in order to get better. So this is not much free will. This is decision based on facts and determinants. Although you always have your free will to choose or not to take. Anyway, so what we're going to talk here is this free will. Free will that many religions says that it's God gave us free will. This is what we have. So, but how as spiritists we see free will? So before to get that, let's gonna talk about our freedom, and define a little bit what freedom we have. So, the Spiritist Book 3, Moral Laws, Chapter 9, talks about the law of liberty. And the Spiritist book, they have this, the Book 3, it's all about the laws, the moral laws, all the laws there are imposed in nature by God, So we all are bound to those laws. So law of liberty is another one. So in that part of the liberty, freedom, what we have, what we don't have, Allan Kardec wants us to inquire more about. So the first question is, are there any positions in the world where individuals enjoy absolutely freedom? Short answer, no. Because all of you need one another, from the most powerful to the impoverished. So that's right. No, we don't have our absolute freedom. But then Allan Kardec still lots of questions. But then why and where? It's a very inquisitive mind and a scientific mind that always asks why, but this or not. So next question he asked, what would be the condition? So we don't take no for granted. We want to know more about it. What would be the condition in which a person could enjoy absolute freedom? As a hermit in the desert. And that's not a joke. It is true. When you are by yourself, on yourself, with no one around you, you have your absolute freedom. As soon as two people find each other, they have reciprocal, I'm so sorry for my pronunciation, reciprocal rights and duties to respect. And they are not absolutely free. So freedom, it's really it's bound to you being yourself or with another. You cannot have absolute freedom if you live in society, and we know that we have society rules, we have community rules, we have ways that we live in society, but you're not completely free, and that's okay. Knowing that gives you much more freedom to know what you can do or not, to take your decisions, and how this is going to go to the free will. So we're gonna get there. Just before I go to the next one, we are living at the moment in it's like Earth, in this pandemic, or we are starting to realize now more and more what is freedom to us, because freedom doesn't mean you can do whatever you want, when you want, with whom you want. Freedom, and this is in the law of liberty. Liberty in the sense of your freedom. So it's not you cannot do wherever, and it looks like globally we have to think that if they said we have to be at home, we have, we are on Dublin, we are in level 3 of lockdown or anything, and you may ask, well, I have my rights to go, but as always, your rights is going to end when it starts the rights of the other. So gonna go a little bit, gonna hold that thought. I'm gonna go to question 833, which is still talking about absolute freedom. Is there anything in human beings that escape all limitations and of which they enjoy absolute freedom? They enjoy unbounded freedom in their thoughts, as there are no obstacle to thought. While it may be hindered, thought cannot be extinguished. So we are completely free to think by ourselves. We are human beings, we think, and our thoughts are free. We can do whatever we do in our thoughts. But when, as before, come to you live in a community, in a society, in a country, you are bound to men's laws, to nature laws, to society laws. So you're not completely free. You're not to do whatever you want, when you want, whoever you want. So that's a very important thing, and we're being taught this year a lot, making us think about, okay, I want to go, I want my right to go, or whatever, but I have to think that me going everywhere, unfortunately, it's gonna put other people in risk. So that's a very, very, very big thing to exercise our freedom, but you're not completely free. So, but Allan Kardec is very inquisitive, so he keeps asking and asking, are human beings responsible for their thoughts? Because if you're free and I can think like, oh yes, I want to think that I'm gonna murder someone, we do that, sometimes but this person doesn't die or something like this. We do. So are human beings responsible for their thoughts? They are accountable for them before God. God alone can know our thoughts and condemns or absolves according to the justice. Justice is another law that we have. And if you go to the Spirit's book, the book 3, there are all moral laws. And this moral law is like spiritual laws for our development, And so it's according to justice. Justice is another law, another God's law. So even that you're not absolutely free, but that's between you and God. No one else can judge you. No one else can influence it, we can. No one else can get on your thoughts, because it's your thoughts. It's between you and God. So we are free in relation to other human beings on our thoughts, but it's still not. And of course, not because I'm gonna think I'm gonna kill that person, I want to be that, I'm not gonna do it. So I'm still not bound to action and reaction. It's only thoughts. But in Spiritism, we also know that when we have our thoughts, our vibration, and are tuned to the same vibration level of thoughts. So whenever we are depressed and we think very sad, bad thoughts, we're going to be connected with other beings, spiritually incarnated or not, with the same thoughts, and this can build a little bit of our feelings, and we can be in a vicious cycle. So we're not completely free. We are bound for a lot of things, but that doesn't mean, oh yeah, we're not free. So what hell? sorry for the language. It's not good. I want to be free. I want to do whatever I want and things. It's just not how it works on Earth and in the universe, And we're gonna learn this. I'm gonna talk about other laws as well. They are all bound as well. So justice is just one of law. But keeping on the law of liberty, question 843. Do human beings have free will in their actions? Which is since they have freedom of thought, they also have freedom of action. Without free will, they would be nothing more than a machine. So that's what it says. Free will, it's kind of what makes us human as well. What makes us be able to think, reason, and take decisions. Machines can do that only if a developer develops that on them, and I'm not talking about artificial intelligence. This is another chapter, another discussion. But machines, as we know, they need to be developed, and to change a pattern or the way they want to change, a developer has to go there and put some codes, take some codes on, change the codes, do. So that's the thing. So they don't think for themselves. They don't take decisions for themselves. We do. We human beings do, because we have free will. And that's something, if I'm not sure, for now, artificial intelligence doesn't have free will yet, which is a bit more complicated, but I can't be 100% sure. But then, so that's another thing. And that's another thing we have for our self-development, And I'm going to get to that part in here. This is a question 399. Is chapter 7. It's the book 2, not the book 3 of the Spirit's book. And in that question, they talks about why we forget our past when we reincarnate. And when they come to the free will, it's another tool that we get to help us on the path. I'm going to explain that because it might be a bit complicated. So self-development path. Spirits always possess free will. We possess free will when we're incarnated, when we are not, when we are in the spiritual world. This free will allow us to choose the trials. We allow them to choose the trials they elect to endure in the physical life as incarnates in a human body. It allows them to deliberate whether they will do something or not, ultimately choosing between good and bad. To deny humanity's free will would be to reduce human beings to status of mere machines. And so why free will is a self-development path? For two things. First, because even before reincarnating, we have our free will to choose how it's going to be our path during our reincarnation, So usually there we choose with a lot of guidance. We make a very minutious plan to do that. But when we reincarnate, we forget all the past and everything, but we're still possessing our free will. Free will, it's something that's mutable. We're always going to have our free will. As a spiritual discarnate or incarnate, we always have free will. And you see, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how it's going to help us on our reincarnation to achieve what we need to achieve, what we came here to achieve in our reincarnation plan. So humans are dependent of their free will. We are dependent of free will, but our existence is subject to certain circumstances according to the map of services and trials on earth and outlined by individuality, in harmony with the opinions of the spiritual guides before reincarnation. So, as we're saying, before reincarnation, what we do, we plan minutiously how it's going to be our life on earth. But we forget about all this, what we came here to do, and why we are here. What did we do in the past life that made me decide that I'm going to do in this life in relations to mission services I'm going to provide or trials I'm going to pass, I'm going to go through. So those are things. And the free will is still there, and your free will is a tool to help you to do that, to actually follow your plans, follow the map. You carefully plan with a lot of guidance of spiritual beings. It wasn't something like you set up in a week, you had plans, some of the spiritual things, they said that they plans for years and years and years, and you only go that when you are ready, and whoever is going to give birth to you is ready as well. So it's all, it could be a lifetime maybe planning, but in the spiritual world, our time is different. The time we feel here is totally different in the spiritual world. So we cannot compare much. Cannot say you're gonna get a lifetime preparing for a lifetime reincarnation, but it's just a way to say it could take as long as. So coming back, but why free will actually help us to keep on the track with our plan for reincarnation? Well, that's another law that's gonna come to us, and it's another law: action and reaction. So we study in physics that every action corresponds a reaction against in the same path and against you. So that's very simple. It's a physics law. It's actually a God's law for everything. So our free will lets us decide our actions, although we become slaves of their consequences. I know this slave is kind of a little bit like, oh my God, deep, I'm going to be a slave of my own consequences or anything, but we're going to suffer the consequences. And that's something like, whenever we say like, it's just a way that God has to help us go on our way, God never punish, because punishment, if God is all love, why he's going to punish? No, but he needs to make sure that you're going on the direction to our self-development, of your moral development, your spiritual development. And that's are the tools, the laws that he imposes. These are the tools that helps us go in our own way. And of course, many times you're going to take the wrong path. So that's why there are consequences to tell, look, you're on the wrong path. You need to turn back, you start all again and decide a different path. You need to do this. So they are all, consequences. And sometimes there are things people passes some very hard trials, really, really, really hard trials. But you chose those trials before, you know. I know it could be really, really difficult, and you know, who am I? I had a very nice life, you know. I don't feel that I have many trials or anything. I was really privileged and lucky for all entire life. So I'm not the person to judge or to say, you know, but it is true we choose before, you know, and it's not just your choice, it's a guided choice as well. It's spiritual beings, you know, it's even more evolved spirits. They are there to help you to do this, you know. Of course, the choice is always you, if you want to do or not. Hope I'm not confusing much. Let me see. Oh, I have plenty of time. So, but that's us, the truth, and that's what we do. You know, we plan ourselves. We forget everything when we come. We have a free will to decide whether we're going to, where we're not. We're not completely free because we live in society. We live, you know, there's always another that will be with us. So the last thing that helps us as well is actually responsibility. So what responsibility do we have? And it's very simple, you know. So I took this one from the Gospel according to Spiritism. It's the chapter, it's item 7, but I think talks about perfect or something like morally evolving spirits that are evolved. So there's one thing important. Duty is moral obligation, first to ourselves and then to others. Duty is a law of life encountered in the smallest details as well in the most elevated acts. It's something, and then something we all have to do. So just definition about duty. Now, duty of the heart, when faithfully observed, elevates man. But how can we define with exactitude? Where does duty begin? Where does it end? So the answer is duty begins exactly at the point where the happiness or tranquility of our neighbor is threatened. So, and therefore terminates at the limit we would not wish to be passed in relation to ourselves. So very easily explain this one, you know, because we have the duty to make sure that you and your neighbor are happy, you know, have happiness or tranquility, you know, to live their lives, to go. At the moment that this one is actually not happening, you know, it's your duty to make sure that this, you know, your and your neighbor, of course, this is really something like very general, and as well, it's not something easy to actually do it. You know, sometimes we do things that even we don't have intention to do it, but it happens. You know, it actually, in the end, it for some reason it made my neighbor a little not unhappy or, you know, affected somehow the tranquility of my neighbor. And neighbor we see here as the next to you. It's not just your house neighbor, you know, it's the person that you live and you live in society. So it's really, really, really the basic. It's when Jesus told us, you know, all the laws that Moses gave us, it can be reduced to two. One, first, love God above all and love yourself as your neighbor. So love yourself as your neighbor is exactly this, you know, and then exactly saying, be careful with the free will, you know, decide things. Oh, we're back. Sorry about that. I don't know if you heard or not. I'm just gonna go back. So I was talking about the Jesus talking about, resuming the Mosaic laws into, and it's really all that your freedom. You're not free, as I told you, actually do whatever you want, because there's always involved the next to you, someone that, besides, because we live in society, we live in community, we live in society, we live in a country, we live, there is always someone besides, unless you're a hermit in the desert, those ones that keep praying all day on their own, and that's they choose, so they have their freedom there. And free will, it means you decide for yourself, but every decision you take will be consequences, and that's a way naturally to put back your on the path you need for your self-development, for your moral development, your spiritual development. So that's why free will, it's like a tool we have. And how this tool's gonna work, because there's the consequences. So lastly, just to like to end with this this figure. Sorry if it's a bit it's a bit too strong, but it is important for us to say that, because not all that I want I can, neither all that I can I must. Like in this picture, you have the hammer, and you're free to think whatever you want, but if you want to hammer someone in the head, no, that's not a good idea. Because if you do that, it's going to be not good consequences, It's going to be bad consequences for you. But you can think that. You're free to think about that, We do. Sometimes we get so annoyed with some people that, we decide that we think about why this person don't do that or don't do that. We do. So, but we keep it that to yourself, because this is between you and God. But what you can do, your action, you can break a pig head to get a pig bank, to get your money you saved. You can get, hammer a nail on the wall to put a beautiful picture, So there's things you can do, things you want to do, but you can't, And that's free will. Free will that makes you decide, because if I do everything I think, it's going to be a bit messy, So our free will helps us. That's the tool that we have, our free will. But so not that all that I want, I can, neither all that I can, I must. I can hammer someone in the head, but I must not. So that's very simple, very, very thanks. But this is a basic for everything in society, Not all that I can, I want. I want to go to get and travel. I want to go and everywhere. I want to be free to go, but I can't at the moment, I can go, actually, I can do it, but I'm not going to do it, because that's my free will. I'm using my free will to decide I'm going to stay in. I'm going to respect the laws, the health and safety and things. I'm going to respect this, but I can do, whatever I want. But neither all that I can, I must. There's things you must not, and that's what helps us to keep on the right path. And helping us keep on the right path, it helps us to actually evolve, to develop, spiritually develop, because that's the goal. When we are born in spirits, we are, I would say, ignorant, I think they said, like we don't know much. And through the reincarnations, we have our lives, we have our experiences, and when we change and we get. So as much as we can do it, as much as we can evolve, free will be there to help us. Action and reaction as well. So I think that's all. It's just in half an hour. So I'm just going to talk about bibliography. So I talk about the Spirit's Book, chapter 9 and chapter 7. Law of Liberty and Why Forget the Past. I actually took just some of the questions. When you go through, the whole Law of Liberty chapter, you will see more the sequence, because it's a sequence. It's all the questions put in a sequence. The questions asked to the spirits put in a sequence. I also talk about the Gospel According to Spiritism, item 7, and Dictionary of the Soul. Now, this Dictionary of the Soul was a free translation, forgot to say that. I didn't find the an English version, so I translated myself. I'll just go back here. No, not this one. So, pardon, but it was like part of Google and my translation here. If anything wasn't much understandable, just let me know. And just ending with our activities. Our activities are now on Facebook Live and on Facebook page, our page, just like this one, this live. So we have our public meeting every Sunday from 11:15 to 12:15. I usually do mine in half an hour, 40 minutes. We have talk show every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:15. It's very good because we have speakers all around the world coming to talk as well. And we have the study group every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. via Zoom meeting. So if you want to get to the study group, you just email Spiritism Ireland Gmail, and then we're gonna email the details for the Zoom meeting. So that's all I had to say today, and I'll finish with our final prayer. So if you want to, again, sit comfortably, close your eyes, deep breath, elevate your thoughts. I'd like to thank everyone for being here, our spiritual guidance, the groups, the Spirit's group spiritual guidance, for being here, for helping us. May everyone be touched by the word said, and I hope everyone has a good week ahead. And feel free. So be it. Thank you very much for coming. That's it. Bye-bye.